Murder case with the most insane twist ever. In February 2018, Lori Eisenberg made a frantic 911 call after her husband disappeared into the freezing waters of a lake. What started as a tragic accident quickly turned into a shocking investigation, revealing a web of deceit that would shake an entire community to its core. Are you ready for a story that will keep you on the edge of your seat until the very end? This is a tale of secrets, lies, and betrayal that will leave you wondering how far some people are willing to go for money and power. Prior to this horrific ordeal, 68-year-old Larry and 66-year-old Lori lived their lives together as prominent members of the Cougar Gulch community of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Larry and Lori each had several children from previous relationships, and those close to the couple reported that they never argued and were always complimenting each other. On a critical February morning in 2018, Larry and Lori Eisenberg set off on a dawn boat ride on Lake Coeur d'Alene. Larry sent his little girl a photograph of the lovely dawn, yet in addition referenced to a companion that he wasn't feeling alright to fish. Notwithstanding this, the couple went on with their arrangements. However, just a few hours later, the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office received a frantic 911 call from Lori, reporting that Larry had fallen overboard and disappeared into the freezing water. Her voice sounded panicked, which can be attributed to the psychological effects of fight-or-flight mode. Lori recounted how Larry had stood up in the boat and mentioned something was wrong with the motor. He went to the front of the boat to investigate and turned to say something to her when he suddenly fell overboard. The heartbreaking detail that Larry had messaged his daughter and friend earlier that morning, combined with the sudden and tragic turn of events, makes this story all the more poignant. A team of experts reviewed previously unseen body cam footage from the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office in this case. After receiving a 911 call, officers arrived and rescued Lori from the lake. They questioned her about Larry's last known location and how he fell in. Lori revealed that Larry had not been feeling well, went to the motor, and suddenly fell overboard. Lori delayed calling 911 for 1 or 2 hours after Larry fell overboard as she couldn't locate a phone. She claimed Larry had broken the ignition switch, requiring her to start the motor manually. Despite searching, she did not return to shore, fearing she'd lose track. Instead, she honked the horn repeatedly, hoping to attract attention. She found Larry's phone and used it to call 911, but the phone fell into the lake after the call. Lori appeared sincere, anxious, and grateful towards the law enforcement. Officers told the deputy to investigate foul play in Lori's accident and stress building report. Finding Larry's body was hard, as they believed that he was dead. Lori was taken to the hospital and the boat was towed. Detectives found blood and located the kill switch despite Lori's claim of a broken ignition. The bent ignition key on the boat suggested a possible struggle, and investigators found Lori's purse, various keys, and an empty juice bottle. The boat and truck were seized for evidence, and the truck contained Lori's misplaced cell phone, an unknown liquid spill, and an allergy medication with drowsy side effects. Lori had given incorrect information about Larry's last location, resulting in a vast search area. The rescue diver was dismissed, and a sonar team was used instead. Despite the search and rescue helicopters flying over the lake, Larry wasn't found. The sonar teams conducted a 3.5-hour search but couldn't locate him. The search was treated as a recovery mission, as surviving in the frigid conditions would have been almost impossible. Lori met with a detective at the hospital and was shown a map of the lake to establish a search area. She couldn't recall the duration of the search, had no phone, and didn't know how long it felt. Lori appeared confused when asked about the bent ignition key and where they were searching. Although her hand movements changed, her behavior was understandable given the situation. The detective asked Lori about the search duration, causing her stress. Sonar team searches for Larry, with divers limited to 6 minutes underwater. Lori's phone and car keys impounded for the investigation, which would be held until it was all cleared up. On February 18th, detectives asked Lori to join the search for Larry on the lake, but noted her unusual behavior. Later that day, 2 calls were made reporting suspicious activity at their remote cabin, including family members moving their belongings out and strange sounds heard at night after Larry's disappearance. Lori, who worked at the North Idaho Housing Coalition, was fired for suspected fraud amounting to $500,000. This prompted Larry's children to speak with investigators about Lori's behavior after their father's disappearance. Ari's son mentioned Lori's unusual behavior, which raised concerns beyond grief. Lori had no prior criminal record and was considered normal by law enforcement. The deputy spoke with Larry's children to provide updates on the ongoing search efforts and explain Lori's perspective. Despite this, the children remained skeptical. The detective reaffirmed his personal belief that Lori was not involved in Larry's disappearance, though he made it clear that this was not an official statement from the sheriff's office. Investigators found blood-stained gloves and paper towels and unknown white powder and suspected blood stains outside Lori and Larry's home during a fraud investigation. Lori claimed that the blood was hers but denied knowledge of the other stains. Forensic testing showed that the stains were caused by wood stain, but Lori remained a suspect. Lori was arrested for forgery and grand theft and bailed out for $75,000 by one of her daughters. 16 days after Larry's disappearance, a man's body was found near the Lake Coeur d'Alene shoreline, and it was believed to be Larry. The body showed no signs of suspicious trauma and further investigation was needed. Larry's autopsy revealed that he had several lethal levels of diphenhydramine, an antihistamine with sedative properties in his system. He died before entering the water, and there were no signs of drowning or stroke. It appears that Larry's body had stopped functioning before entering the water. Lori had previously mentioned that her husband often took multiple pills a day and sometimes forgot to take the correct dosage. It's possible that Lori was truthful about Larry's forgetfulness with his pills, or it could have been a preemptive explanation in case his body was discovered with drugs in his system. Lori also claimed that Larry was feeling sick with flu-like symptoms, but no one else seemed to remember him being unwell. The only mention of illness was in a text message Larry sent to his friend the day he went missing, assuming it was genuinely from him. Lori's son denied having Larry's phone when questioned by deputies, but an expert analyst confirmed that it had pinned a tower near his home. The son's extreme statement may be an attempt to cover up a lie. However, it's important to consider multiple indicators rather than a single one. In late May, Lori missed 2 court dates relating to a fraud case and went on the run. Investigators continued to question those close to Larry and Lori and their seemingly perfect relationship that began to show cracks. A $500,000 warrant was issued for Lori's arrest, and bounty hunters were hot on her trail. Handwritten changes to Larry's will were found, with Lori reportedly altering it just a month before his death to leave 80% of his estate to her children, and only 20% to Larry's biological children. Money, drugs, and love are the 3 most common motives for murder, and investigators are closely examining anyone with any of these motives in relation to the victim. Larry's autopsy revealed poisoning with 7,100 nanograms of diphenhydramine, a drug with a maximum limit of 1,000 nanograms for adults. Lori mixed the drugs in a naked juice bottle, sent a text to Larry's daughter before using the trolling monitor to move the boat. Financial gain could be the motive. Lori's children may have also been involved, as one of them allegedly told investigators that Lori claimed to have stolen the money to help them out. However, Lori's alleged motive is still under investigation and her whereabouts remain unknown as she's still on the run. Lori was found guilty of wire fraud and several other federal program thefts and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Her daughters received house arrest, probation, and fines. Lori was charged with the first-degree murder and later pledged guilty to second-degree murder for the death of her husband. She was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Lori claimed that her husband consumed diphenhydramine while she was asleep, but the judge didn't believe her and sentenced her to life in prison with 30 years fixed. In conclusion, the case of Lori Vallow and her involvement in the death of her husband, Larry, is a tragic and complex story that unfolded over several years. With the conviction and sentencing, justice has been served for Larry and his family. The investigation into Lori's other suspicious activities, such as the disappearance of her children, is still ongoing, and it serves as a reminder of the importance of holding individuals accountable for their actions, no matter how powerful they may think they are.